Hey, my name is Gabriel Bourgeois. I went 8th at the Fredericton Regional from the 23rd of October, and I was playing Bystial branded. So without further ado, let's start with the list. So standard with branded, we're going 2 Albas. I was thinking you could go either 3 or 2, honestly, but I'm not maxing out on the Frightful package, so I don't think 3 is necessary. It's fine normal, but like you'd rather open anything else. Same thing here for the Alubers. It's a great normal, it gets you branded fusion, but at the same time it's like, yeah, but brand opening exists and tragedy accesses to it, and tragedy is probably the life and soul of the deck. Speaking of which, is there. So like, I don't think the 3 Aluber is necessary because it's just gonna clog your hand at the end of the day. So afterwards, yeah, tragedy, just spoke about it, but yeah. Insane, it's allure fodder, it's Rhoda, it's your follow-up, it banishes itself from grave. You can shuffle it with the continuous spell, you can banish it for beasted. It's just advantage city. I don't understand why this exists, but hey, I'm gonna play 3 if it exists. Standard for the list, the 1 ad libitum to make the Chimera play with the branded in red. So you just revive the Mirror Jade again and banish another card. Apparently banishing is great against tiers. Not sure, apparently. And then we have the 1 Spice, the Despia Comedy for the anti-skill drain combo. Because of this, you can set it off Branded Fusion and play around Suliek, Fenrir, Imperm, Veiler, Skill Drain, and anything targeting negation or removal. It's insane, and I'll go with the combo later on in the video after the deck profile. So now we're on Bestials. So triple Magnumit. It searches your starter, it searches extension, it searches the board breakers, because Lubellion is just 3 removals in 1. At worst, you can go get Keeper of Dragon Magic for it, because it's dragon and fetches Branded Fusion. And revives the Albaz. So at its worst, Magnumit's it's a Rhoda for your starter. At its best, it just says, hey, have an OTK. And then we're on 1 Dridworm, 1 Saronir. Saronir to send for the Dark for the Branded Fusion, so you can dump Lubellion still. And you have the Druidworm to make the board break play with Lubellion. It's just a 3rd name. But yeah, honestly, I don't think I'd go high. I might try the 2nd Druidworm, but I feel it's gonna get a little bit cloggy later on. But at the same time, it's like, yes, but no. I like the 3-1-1-1 ratio is really good. But like, I'd try the 2nd Lubellion. I'd be willing to, but for the event, I think 3-1-1-1 was fine. But again, it's testing. It's testing to see. So Fusion Engine, again 1 Keeper, double chain. I just explained Keeper, but yeah, it's your 3rd normal summon. It's searchable off of Magnumit, so it gets you utility. It revives Albaz to poly into Mirror Jade or Lubellion. It discards everything to set up everything. And we're on the double chain because I'm on 2/2/2 for the Patchwork engine. Because it makes an even double place it for it, so it makes it sure so you will open at least one of the 6 parts every game. And finally, Pankratops at 3 at home. I don't know why this exists, but hey, I love it when my removal spells have 2400 attack. Banishing face down is also insane in the mirrors because you can just get rid of the Mirror Jade. It stops recycling altogether unless he's playing like exactly Necroface. And yeah, favorite card I banished all day was probably the Placet of Golden Lords. So now we're on 21 monsters, 21 spells. Let's start with the spells. Standard, honestly, no real need to explain it. Triple Branded Fusion, triple opening. So 6 copies of Branded Fusion, basically. So Italy Protection, Playmaker, honestly, don't really need to explain it. It's just great cards all around. You got double branded in red. It's another thing to play again around the targeted removals and the negations. So you can go Lubellion, chain the red to get rid of it. So you can just play around Despia as well. Also, it banishes, so it's another plus off your 1 of regains that you can. So yeah, so every time you resolve your red or anything else that banishes, you go +1 off of this. But again, if your opponent bestials you also go +1 off it because you draw 1 every turn if a dark or light is banished. So it's just constant looping, and if And if your one target in the grave gets banished, you just keep getting it, so you'll never really run out of resources. You banish your tragedy, set back your spells, you get it back, you draw one. You banish for red, you draw one. You banish for the bestials, you draw one. It's just fantastic all around. So triple allure, again, self-explanatory. It's the best draw. It's probably the best draw card you can play in the deck. I've been trying prosperity, but at the same time, I'm like, I'd prefer having the more cards in the extra deck and being able to banish tragedy off of it than just being able to add. Yeah, digging 6 is insane, but I still think just being able to theoretically like dig up to 11 with it is just freaking really good. Rest of the fusion engine, I went through with it. 2/2. Nice +1 off of patchwork, and you're playing with a chain, so you have double play sets, so you guarantee opening them. And we're on triple droplets, 1 foolish, 1 called by for the staples. Called by, best card in the game, don't really need to explain it. Stops tiers, stops elf targets, stops mat mechs, just everything is fucking great. Burial is another Rhoda for tragedy. Dumps Lubellion if you want to go for your spell trap plays earlier. Dumps comedy if you want to play around the negation as well. And the droplet is another play to play again around the targeted stuff. So it's really good. Also, just reactive board breakers is like, I think it's the way to go for a deck. Dark Ruler is nice, but just being able to stop the one piece that stops the rest of the deck is good enough. Because going lethal with deck is just easy enough, so I don't think Dark Ruler is the main deck pick for the deck. And for the traps, we're on double beast, 1 banishment. Banishment's another one where you're setting it from deck with Albion, you're just placing it with tragedy from grave. It banishes tiers, so you can go into Despia, you can go into the Lubellion with it if you revive if you have an Albaz on field. It's just great all around. It's banishing, so it's another thing you can shuffle off of your regains. It's great. And you're on double beast because if your one of gets outed, so you can't out Mystic Mine anymore, it's kind of shitty. And it can set itself from the grave every turn because it just places a branded continuous spell trap. So if you want to have 1 grave, 1 on field, you can set the 1 with the 1, and then you have just double pops every turn with the regained also because it revives your bestials and keep getting advantage. So we're at 45 with the main deck on 21, 21, 3. We'll go on to the side deck, the extra, and then I'll show for the combo. So I was on 3 Bell. Only real hand trap I was playing because I don't consider the beasted as hand traps really. They're more like bodies and vantage. Bell was to play around the beasteds as well because the combo is resilient and you'll shuffle it back with the regained. But you rather just resolve having the Lubellion in grave and going for the trap plays, or having the Albion in grave so you can set red or banishment from deck. Having the option of playing against to play around everything else that's in the format is just good enough to have the 3 bells over 3 ash to play around the branded fusions or anything. And it's just another way to blanket tier name. So I think if you're to run 1 hand trap, it's gonna be the bell. I just shot on the card, but yeah, triple Dark Ruler just in case boards happen. Pride is still a thing. I hit Dragon Link in one of my matchups. I wish I drew that, honestly. Just it's the emergency board breaker. Is your opponent playing super wombo combo 15 negates? Yes. Put in the Dark Rulers. You don't have a real choice of it. And at worst, you'll just OTK next turn because you put up so much pressure with the deck. Triple Cyclone. It's another way to play around the Suliek. It banishes the Pearl Reno. It banishes mine. It plays around Eldritch really well. I think I'd play this over Twister just for the fact that you already discarded enough cards in hand with the reds, with the opening, with the Lubellion. It's like the 1-for-1 you need for spell trap removal. I'd play MST, but banishing is a bit better, I think. Triple Judgment, really the 13 to 15 cards in the side deck. Didn't really have the time to side deck to build the side deck at all because I rushed the deck building process. So I just thought, hey, what plays around everything? So you just play around the droplet, you play around the board breakers, the Dark Rulers, everything else. And triple evenly because it's evenly. Just gets rid of the board, plays around Tier, plays around Eldritch, plays around Sprite. And again, you're just lethal next turn because you just go full board and like win for a game if he just keeps in the gate. We're on the extra deck now, so we were on double Mirror Jade, double Lubellion. Pretty standard for the list, honestly. Just loop the Lubellions by themselves because one shuffles the other. And just having the one Mirror Jade I don't think is enough because you're not always going to shuffle it back immediately because it's not always going to stick on field or just be outed and you'll already have past your regain. So having the second one just in case of emergency is really nice. Also, just win con of the deck, you want to keep it. You want to have the access to it always. So two is good, but like you could go 3 if you have the extra deck space for it too. Triple Albion because it's your combo target for the brand the Beasted line because you tribute the first off because you summon it properly. So you have 2 basically ammunition for the Mirror Jade. Because if you just play 2, you'd go summon 1 and have the only dump for Mirror Jade. So it would be kind of weird to play around. But having the second one just makes it so you don't have to loop it immediately with a Lubellion and go into like a Stepelia when you don't need it. Then the final Albaz Dragon, we're on 1 Titanic Lad. It's your secondary Mirror Jade target. It doesn't do as much as Albion, but at the same time, if your opponent's struggling for resources, you can just go end phase, special Albaz, eat up what they have in follow-up, and go for the kill with it. So stalling for time's cool. Double Masquerade. If you can just establish 1 on field, is great because it puts pressure and starts the battle phase early. If you have the second one, it just makes it so he has to play. He has 6 cards. Your opponent has 6 cards to play, around 3 to 4 interruptions. So it just makes so much pressure unless he has like exactly the Super Poly, the Dark Ruler, or the Evenly. He can't play through it and just has to scoop to the next game. Also burns for time, so cool. Double Chimera, it's kind of the same thing as Mirror Jade. You could theoretically change the numbers, but having the 2 makes it so you can go 1 during your turn to board break and go the second one during your opponent's turn to stop the follow-up. But without having to shuffle it with a Lubellion afterwards. You could also play 3 if you're a Maniac, but at the same time, just 2 is enough. It comes up and it's 3,300. You don't really need the game. You don't really need the third one because it puts so much pressure on board. It's an immediate threat. So we're on 1 Stepelia and 1 Furious for the last ones. It's basically your desperation Lubellion target. So just Stepelia plays around like certain matchups. Great against the mirror if he's not playing against the targeted removal as I do. So like just negating the Lubellion or the Albion. And like the 1 card combo decks, the Rogue, you're gonna hit up. Probably like let's say figuratively you're playing against something with Isolde. It's immediate removal, it's immediate negation, it stops follow-up. It level modules, so it puts the Sprite monsters level 1. So it just can't extend with it. And we're on the 1 Savage because you can shuffle any 2 Bestial, any 2 level 6 Bestials, basically your hand traps off of it, and it just makes another DPE, pop 1 on your field, pop 1 on your opponent's field, puts pressure and just recycles your resources so you can keep adding off of Magnamit and keeping the game going. And 15 card, we're on 1 Wallow, Founder of the Drudge Dragons. It's kind of weird because you're playing Branded Fusion because it fusion locks you for the turn. But if you open exactly like Magnamut and no access to Branded Fusion, it just pins from grave or sets the spell traps you need. So it can carry a game by itself because it just says, hey, spin a tier and quick. If you're playing the mirror, it sets a Branded Fusion. You can go for the droplet. If your opponent has interruption, you can just go TDT with A if you did it, whatever. But yeah, just 1 Magnamut adds the Druid Worm that banishes anything from the grave to special itself and just goes into Wallow. I was thinking about going to Beatrice to Foolish Tragedy, but at the same time, it's like you're still not accessing Mirror Jade. So I'd rather have the quick DD Crow or resource gain instead of like, yeah, it adds the starter, but you can't activate it because they went for an Xyz. It did come up once during the tournament because it's kind of situational still. I spun back a Conquistador, or I set back a Conquistador on my side of the field so the Eldritch Loop wouldn't work. So that's for the deck, 45 cards, and I'll go... Oh yeah, I have to go for quick matchups, don't I? So game 1 was against Altergeist. Chimera being untargetable and popping 2 is honestly just too good for the deck to out. So that was an easy 2-0. Playing again, game 2 was Branded Eldritch. Flip Scale Drain, couldn't win through it because I just had the line to go through it. So he just scooped and we went to game 2, same thing basically. Game 3 played against Tyr Shatula. Just really annoying, but through drawn out games, just it's like a puzzle. When you're playing against this kind of the kind of deck the guy was playing, it's not the kind of like, oh, I have to threaten this thing. It's really piece by piece, look at your hand and snipe one card at a time till the resource loops ends. So yeah, we went into time. Master did free game, GG. First loss of the tournament was round 4. We went against Pure Tier. Guy just opened crazy. What can I say? Top decking Super Poly against the Fusion deck. Would have known. 2 times too. And game 5 was against Beast of Dragonlink. Just have to say, Boron's one head of a card when you can't chain to it. I love custom cards too, bro. The guy opened crazy and just couldn't do anything through it. And round 6 was I think was Branded Eldritch Dogmatica. Another long undrawn out game. Guy flipped rivalry, but apparently just like slapping 10 dragons on the field is enough to have game. So like Fenrir held his way throughout like most of the first game because banishing the rivalries and the Lord and stuff. But I still think the Bestials were like the cards that set up the matchup because the guy still like couldn't loop back his extra deck. He would miss with Kism. He couldn't like hit back his Dogmaticus from grave. So I like the matchup wasn't hard per se. It's more of a who drew better across multiple turns because we both opened really weird. So I'll go throughout the skill drain combo and then I think we can call it a day. So it should be access to red, access to fusion, comedy for grave, Albas for grave, basically Aluber, and we're gonna call like any name, right? And a discard too. Like it feels specific, but your decks has so much access, so you don't really mind it, because everything adds to everything, and the discards can be anything, so you don't really mind it. So you'd go normal Aluber, add the pieces you miss, go Branded Fusion. You hit the Albaz and the Comedy to grave. You go Lubellion effect, discard. Then your opponent doesn't have a choice to flip the skill drain because you don't. If you have the access under skill drain without the Aluber, or if you have the Lubellion resolving and you flip skill drain, you go either way. Chain red, take the Albaz, take your 2 names and the Albaz. You banish all 3 of them. You go for Chimera, so it's gonna be a pop 2 draw 1 this time, and then you resolve the Lubellion. You shuffle the 2 pieces and you go Mirror Jade. That's not Mirror Jade. Whoops. And then Chimera activates. So you're like, well, it doesn't resolve. You're under skill drain, aren't you? But you chain the Comedy and special it. It's no longer in the field. So you pop the skill drain and everything else, and whatever else you have. You draw 1, and then you have the Mirror Jade banishing anything else that's on the field. And you just went through like probably 3 cards tops. So if you're going second, you still have follow up. You can still set up a Mirror Jade dump to guy. So it's honestly kind of really good. It's kind of weird though, because if he has any other interrupt, you still have to play around it. But yeah, that's honestly all for the deck profile. I just want to give shout outs to my friends Makoto and Jacob that helped me deck build for the list, and everybody from Team Traveler that helped me just like push through it and encourage me through for the top. Thanks, have a good one.